I'm going to be taking my motorcycle to some of the craziest locations that I could find, including a forgotten train depot that's been abandoned for over 30 years, an old power plant, and even a former, meeting place. But more on that later. For now, let's get my motorcycle ready for the 3-hour road trip to our first location. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is put the saddlebags on the bike. Now, I absolutely hate running these things on this bike, but there's a couple of things that I need to bring with me, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw these on. But before I do that, I wanna make sure that the bike starts because it's been super cold recently. Okay, that was close. That was close. Now that works, let's throw these things on. We have a problem. So the saddlebags are on, but they're kind of pushing underneath here, which is an issue because I don't want any of these straps dangling to hit the tire. And as you can see, I know that from experience. So I think I'm gonna take a zip tie and attach this handle over to this handle, and it should be able to pull them up, but let's see. The theory is to kind of pull them up over here like that. Like that, maybe? No, I think I just found the best solution that we're gonna get. Check this out. What I ended up doing is taking off this passenger seat and then putting the straps in like an X formation, and it seems to work pretty well. The only thing that worries me is this one has a little bit of weight in it, but not much, but it still kind of pushes in a little bit. And in an attempt to keep the load pretty light, I'm only bringing 4 things with me. The first of which being a bigger jacket, because it is gonna get colder. The second, an extra pair of shoes. I've got a clear visor in here in case we come home at night. And lastly, if you don't already know this trick, riding in the wintertime, it helps you out a ton. I'm gonna bring a couple pairs of latex gloves just for some extra wind protection if we need it. Last thing to do is throw my gear on and then we're ready to hit the road. And we're out. We're about to get started on the journey. As you can see on my screen, we have 2 hours and 36 minutes until we get there. I don't think I've ever ridden this bike that long before, so without further ado, bags are set. One final check just to make sure that ain't going nowhere. All right, let's begin. I think by the end of this video, I'm going to find every single semi-comfortable position on a sport bike. I need to figure something out. This is not ideal. Especially in this traffic. It'll get better once we get out of here, but we're about 30 minutes in or so. Okay, we got another problem. These clouds came in out of nowhere, and it is making a drastic difference. If I had to guess, I would say it feels like 44 degrees. That's a very specific estimate, but it feels like it's like 44 degrees out here. So I stopped at a Walmart because I'm obviously unprepared. And I'm gonna look for 2 things, one of which is a new gloving solution. Shoot. Even if we have to sacrifice some safety for some warmth, I'm down for that at this point. And then also some sort of like rain pant or something that can go over these pants as like a windbreaker of sorts. And I'm at a weird spot. I'm halfway there. So do I keep going? Do I turn back? I don't know, dude. Okay, here's the new current game plan. I found some gloves. I found some wind resistant. They're actually rain pants and they look ridiculous, but hey, warmth is warmth. We're gonna go ahead and just ride, continue on our way there. If I'm like, okay, there's no way this is gonna happen and I can't do 5 more hours of this because that's what it's gonna have to be, we're gonna turn back and find another spot. It's been about 10 miles since I left Walmart. I think this is doable. My hands are still super cold, but this is better than the gauntlet gloves were for sure. Just over an hour to get there. At this point, if I turn back, either way it's gonna be miserable, so I might as well finish what I set out for. I pulled over again because my earplugs came out and I wanted to fix that. It's super windy, so that's great. On top of all of that, it is also starting to mist a bit outside. I'm just hoping that doesn't turn into rain. You know, you can give me the mist, it's fine. Please don't rain. Almost there. 36 minutes left. Dude, my hands are completely white and red. That's it. Oh man. But anyways, I figured I'd use this time to tell you about the spot that we're going to now that we've actually decided we're going to go there. It all started in 1872 when the town of Palestine raised bonds worth over $5 million in today's money for a railroad company known at the time as the International Great Northern Railroad, better known as the IGN Railroad. In exchange, IGN pledged to build a depot and workshops in the town and remain there, quote, forever and thereafter. This is precisely where the problem began. The agreement had also stated that any successors of the IGN Railroad would be bound by that same agreement, and in the 1940s,
1950s, IGN eventually gave way to Missouri Pacific Railroad, leaving them stuck under the exact same agreement. In the late 50s, Missouri Pacific attempted to void the contract. The court, however, continued to side with the city. 3 decades later, in 1987, Missouri Pacific merged with Union Pacific, and today, Union Pacific has moved most of its locations elsewhere, leaving this area unofficially abandoned as they're still technically under contract with the city of Palestine. And this legal battle still continues today. Now, let's jump back on the road and see what we can discover about the Union Pacific train depot.
We're almost there, about 5 minutes left, but look how ominous this road looks. Like the tall trees, the mist, the road. There's nobody here. Wait, is this it? This is it. Dude. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is it. Property of the Union Pacific Railroad. Authorized personnel only. If we came all this way and we can't even get through here, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna venture over this way and see what's over here. I didn't realize it until after I filmed that little segment that there's like 1,000 cameras staring at me. Yeah, they've got this place up good. Okay, let's park the bike here.
This place was obviously very secured, which seemed kind of odd for a company that doesn't even want to be there in the first place. Nonetheless, I can only do so much in this situation, so I decided to take out the drone and see if we could spot an opening somewhere.
So as you see, there's nothing I can do really. I don't know if you can tell or not by the atmosphere behind me, but this is like, it's starting to set in a little bit that I'm kind of just in the middle of nowhere in a freezing cold forest with 1 bottle of water and a Cliff Bar. So there's that. Hey, the bike looks good though.
Hey, Zenith from the future here, and I think I just found something pretty interesting. This is the spot that I'm trying to explore right here, and in the video, I'm currently standing in this section here. Now, as you know by now, I couldn't find a way into the facility, but I think I might have just found one. If we zoom in on this spot right here, you can see all these old railroad tracks that are leading out of the facility. Now, if you were to follow those out of there, you would eventually end up in this spot right here. Now, the thing that's special about this, if we enter Street View, you'll see that this goes right over top where the railroad tracks are. So in theory, you could just go on the side of here, crawl down, and follow the railroad tracks all the way in because there's no fence from that point on. The only issue with that is technically it's illegal. Believe me, I've done tons of research on this, and even though these rails are most likely abandoned, it's still technically trespassing. But if you guys wanted to see it in a future video, I could possibly reach out to Union Pacific and see if they would allow me to walk on their railroad. If they do that, technically I could enter the facility. But for now, we still have 2 more locations to explore, so let's hop into those.
And we are back for day 2. The first location that we're gonna go to is a building that was built in 1924 and served as the official headquarters for the Texas chapter of the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah, it was built for them, by them, as a meeting place, and it was actually an auditorium that seated over 2,000 people. And to provide a little bit of scale, the population at the time in Fort Worth was about 106,000, and the KKK had 6,000 members in the city of Fort Worth. However, shortly after the building's construction, it was allegedly bombed by somebody, causing a massive fire, and they had to rebuild it the next year. It only served as their headquarters for a few years because in 1927, they sold it to a company called Leonard Brothers Department Store. Throughout the mid-1900s, the building was used for various different things, such as a theater and even a boxing ring at one time. But then in 1946, the building was sold to Ellis Pecan Company. Now, good old Ellis Pecan Company would operate out of this building until 1999, when they left it abandoned. So for the past 2 decades, it has just been sitting there right on North Main Street of downtown Fort Worth. Now, this caught the attention of a group called Transform 1012, which is the address of the building itself. And in the year 2021, due to a generous grant, they were able to purchase the property. I believe to this day they're still waiting on a little bit more funding to put some plans into place. In the future, the building is supposed to serve multiple purposes, including a theater, a civil rights museum, and even a public park. I think we're just a couple miles away now because we're in the stockyards, and it should be just after the stockyards. There's a bridge that takes you to the Tarrant County Courthouse, which is centered in the middle of downtown Fort Worth. Look at that. That looks so fun. Little parade truck. It's so funny because everybody here is instantly in cowboy mode. Whenever you think of the stereotypical Texas, like ride your horses to school, cowboy hats every day, it is this area right here. Outside of that, as soon as you get off that brick road, it kind of just changes back into normal society. And there it is right there. It's that big building on the left-hand side of the road here. I'm not sure how tight the security is. I remember you used to just be able to walk right inside. I'm gonna see what I can do. Yeah, this place is actually huge. It's kind of crazy. It doesn't have a roof on it anymore either. I guess that caved in. Good thing about being on a motorcycle is I can sneak through these tight little places. This is abandoned too. This whole street kind of is, I guess. Yeah, they've got some security measures in place, a couple cameras. But yeah, there used to be an entrance right here. You could kind of crawl through this gate and get access to it. But it looks like they put the fence back up. Those two cameras there. One points at that gate. One point's at the old entrance. Let's go over to the other side. It is kind of crazy that this building is over 100 years old. The good thing about this is that there's no roof, so in theory I can technically fly my drone in there. But even if we can't get in here, I'm hoping the next one we can, because that is probably the biggest one that we're going to look at today. It's a huge abandoned power plant, but let's look at this first. I went here a couple years ago and none of this was like this. There were no, like, this whole gate section was not here. This section over here, somebody had cut the wires, and on the front there was actually somebody took the board off of the door so you could just walk right in. And I almost did, except for the fact that I saw a homeless person walk inside of there, and you never know. Okay, time to reassess the situation and see if we can find a way in here legally. But I don't know if I'm gonna have any hope on this one. There's a lot of like media around this place right now because of the restoration they're trying to do. And then that's the door that was open, that steel door now that they've got welded shut, it looks like. We're 0 for 2 so far. I'm gonna park the bike right here and see what we can find inside the old abandoned KKK auditorium.
Open your eyes, what can you see around? Wind of the open sky, over the siren sound. This is a dream, getting the royal scar, holding a diamond blade, throwing it far. Holding your breath still, you jump the fire will.
While I was on my way to the third and final location, I spotted an old building made of sheet metal that I figured I should probably check out.
Oh, what is that? Do we go on a side quest? Let's just take a peek. It wouldn't hurt to take a peek, would it? I've never seen this before. There is a little gap in the sheet metal. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like a barn or something, or... You can see all the different entrances they've had to patch up multiple times probably. Oh, you can see inside. I can't see anything in there. Let's go around to the backside. I feel like there's gonna be an entrance somewhere. It looks like a big open... Like there's nothing in it, I don't think. I saw some graffiti. This was not on our agenda today, but I just want to know what it is. Let me stick my phone through there and see if we can see what it is. I don't know if that shows it or not. Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, it looks like a barn or storage facility of some sort. There's an opening on the roof if you're desperate enough. Oh, you can see the next location. Through those trees there, you see that big building? That's the one. Let's get over there.
This is the Fort Worth Power and Light Company power plant. The plant was built in 1912 to support the rapidly growing infrastructure of Fort Worth, Texas, and during World War II, the plant ran 24/7, feeding defense factories and the regional railroads. However, the newer post-war plants burned natural gas, which was much less pollutive than coal as this building had used. By the 1980s, TXU kept the plant on standby, and in 1993, it shut down for good.
There's not a direct road that leads there, so we're gonna have to go on foot and hike it, but we should be able to cross this bridge and it should take us pretty much straight there.
A short walk later, we arrived at the building. Recently, I learned that security measures drastically tightened following the recent death of a 27-year-old girl who had fallen 50 feet down a shaft in the building. I found 2 entrances to the surrounding area, the first of which looked to be used frequently by homeless people in the area. In an attempt not to disturb them, I found another entrance through a narrow gate opening. Okay, so I couldn't access the entrance on the other side, so I found another one that looks a little more promising, a little more open. The gate led me to an incredibly sketchy staircase that flowed down to the base of the building. For reference, the Fort Worth power plant originally had multiple steam stacks that stood hundreds of feet tall. When Tarrant County Community College purchased the property in 2004, they began demolishing parts of the building, starting with the steam stacks. However, following the financial crash of 2008, the demolition was put on pause and never ended up resuming, and the building has remained relatively untouched since then. But on December 18th of this year, the building will be bidded off by the college after over 20 years of ownership. So like I was mentioning, there were a bunch of steam stacks that also were coming up from the ground. From old pictures, it looked like there were about 4 of them. I'm trying to find where they were at. There's these big things behind me. I have no idea what they are, but they look like they were sealed off with concrete or something, but I don't imagine those were the stacks. I'll have to compare and contrast to an old picture of this place when it was actually in use. I don't know, it almost looks like they were storing like water or something in here, but you can see the top. It looks like it's been capped with concrete, but there it is. Crazy looking place. Yeah, they've covered up all the graffiti and stuff on the outside. And as I mentioned, it is still owned by the college campus, so I almost just fell off that thing. So I don't know what they're planning to do with it, if anything, but it looks like they're taking some more measures because this fence is new. But anyways, I'm gonna keep walking over to the other side and see if there's any small holes or anything I can go into. I had to leave my drone and camera bag outside the fence because I couldn't fit inside of it with it. So, oops.
Unfortunately, yet again, this place was incredibly hard to access. The owner had multiple security measures in place: razor wire, signage, steel barricades, the list goes on and on, but it wasn't always this way.
When I first came here many years ago, the only fence that they had up was this one right behind me, and as you can tell, that one was pretty easy to get through and it was always cut down. There was always somebody who had brought some wire cutters or something and snapped the fence so that you could get in. And there were wood panels, but if you were to bring a little step ladder, that's how most people would get into the building itself, because there are a couple spots where people had somehow bent the metal backwards, but not anymore, it looks like.
As I continued to walk around the perimeter, I stumbled into an intriguing opening in the fence. It wasn't until afterwards that I realized a few years back I had been chased through here by a man who was obviously under some sort of influence.
Dude, this is the scariest part by far. And it's right next to the building too.
With no way into the building itself, I decided to cut my losses and head back to my bike.
Well, that's gonna do it for the video. I'm actually so bummed out that we didn't get to go inside any of the locations this time, but still fascinating places nonetheless, and it's always a fun time to explore on the sport bike. But if you went on to enjoy this video, it helps me out a ton if you could leave a like on it and hit the subscribe button if you're brand new to the channel. I post new videos every 10 days, and with that out of the way, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.